Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Southside Stories. And just a quick reminder, if you are listening or watching on YouTube or Spotify, please remember to hit the subscribe button or the notification bell just to keep across of new episodes. We've got some great guests coming up, including today. So we're lucky to have James from Bodytonic here. James, hello.
Hello, how you doing?
Great, thanks. Yeah, we're just saying how great the weather is at the moment. Of course, when this goes out, it'll probably be completely different, but at the moment, it's fantastic. James, just tell us a little bit about yourself and just give us the high level on what you do. And we're going to go into more detail than that in a second.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on. My name's James. I'm an osteopath, registered osteopath, working in Canada Water. And I own and run Bodytonic Clinic. So we're a multi-disciplinary team of nearly 30 employed practitioners working across two sites. So we've got a large site in Canada Water and a large site in Stratford. So that's very much who I am and what I do at the moment.
Tell us a bit about your journey then. Have you always been an osteopath? How did you get into this? Just tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So my journey into osteopathy, so I'm from a farming background, so it was either be a farmer or do something I want. Luckily, my father was do something that you love. I'm not proposing that you have to go into farming. It was something medical that I wanted to do. And I found osteopathy through being in a road traffic accident with my mum when I was younger. And then refound it again when I ended up working in a zoo, doing work experience because you couldn't work in a hospital at that time. I then went and trained. Didn't really want to be in a desk-based seated position, although I kind of am in that at the moment. But I wanted to be hands-on. I wanted to kind of be physical in my job. I wanted to have flexibility. And that's when I then went and studied osteopathy. So it's a 4-year degree, and I did this one down in Borough. And at the time, I studied it from 18. So it was for, 20 years ago. So at that time, there weren't that many 18-year-olds doing osteopathy. It's very much a second degree, second profession type job. But it was an amazing work environment, learning environment. I got to learn and understand from lots of different people from various different backgrounds of various different ages. So, and since then, I've just been working with humans and treating patients, and I now have a team. So I manage that along with our senior team. And yeah, it's just gone from strength to strength, and I enjoy it. I enjoy what I do.
What is it about that profession that you do enjoy? What is it about it?
It's the people. It really is a people-centered person. You've got the clinical aspect. So, you really have to know your stuff, from diagnostics to emergency care to treating, identifying who is appropriate for what type of treatment, and really seeing them from probably their worst in pain to, moving and doing exactly what they want to be doing and living the lives of that they want to be living. So you have to really know your stuff from that side of things, but it very much is a rapport building, people-centered people-centered kind of job. It is all about your communication skills, and it's about making sure you have that ability to kind of communicate to that patient what it is that you're doing. I just love talking, and I love finding out about people. Their journeys, their stories, where they're going, even down to kind of where they're flying to, what they had for dinner, any new restaurants and stuff. I just love that chat, and incorporating that into the treatment was the main part of what made my day fun and exciting to be a part of.
Great. So you're in the perfect job, it sounds like. I'm curious, when you go quite a long training period for a 4-year degree, and then after that, are you then a fully qualified osteo, or do you have to do something else after that to do the final qualification?
No, so it's a full-time 4-year degree, although you can do it part-time. So the first couple of years you can do part-time, and then the last couple of years you do full-time. From your end of second year, most colleges will have a clinic that operates, and you work within that clinic. So from the second year, you were observing, moving into then treating patients. So by that time, you should have had over 1,000, or you need to graduate, at least when I graduated, with 1,000 hours of clinical time. So you've treated patients, you know how to communicate, but it's a very different environment from an actual clinical, proper private practice environment. So you're kind of in the deep end again. But in terms of your ability to go out there and treat safely, confidently, competently, you're good to go from the moment you graduate and from the moment you get onto the register.
And did you then go straight to starting your own practice, or did you work for somebody else for a bit? Or
because it was full time, I took a month off. It was a lot, so I took a month off, and then I had the opportunity to take a job for a couple of half days a week. But what I really wanted to do is I really wanted to immerse myself in lots of different practices. So I ended up locuming and going and working for people for cover, and I got to work in various different treatment to clinics, treating various different people, from being in really, really busy clinics, seeing 18, 20 patients a day, to slightly quieter clinics, different ones that specialised in different aspects. And I think that really helped me to formulate what I wanted to do eventually, rather than just going straight into a clinic environment. So that's what I did when I first graduated. And then I slowly just started to build my own list and develop the clinic.
great. And let's just make sure. I think well, actually, maybe it's just me, but I just want to understand the difference between osteo, physio, chiro. Oh, you probably get this a lot, right? Chiro. Just explain the different disciplines and just a top line of in what way they're different.
Yeah, sure. So we have osteophysio chiro in the clinic, and yeah, it's a question we get asked all the time. So there's a lot of overlap between the three. If you think of a Venn diagram and put the circles together, there is a lot of overlap. Generally, physios will be exercise prescription, rehab, post-operation, strength conditioning pre. So a lot of kind of probably a little bit more exercise-based. Chiropractic tends to be more manipulation-based, adjustment-based. Osteo kind of sits in the middle. It works with mobilizations and manipulations to help increase movement within the skeletal system, but hands-on soft tissue techniques to help improve injuries. But they also do deal with and will provide exercises, rehab, work with orthopedics. So they kind of sit in the middle. Having said that, our team, our physios are very hands-on. Our chiros are very hands-on. So there is a lot of overlap between the three. There are subtle differences.
When you qualify, you only qualify in one, do you? You can't do you specialize in one area. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all legally protected titles, so you can't train in one and then call yourself another. So yeah.
Your clinic then, how typical is it that in one clinic you have all three disciplines?
It's quite common. It can be quite common. They tend to be the bigger multidisciplinary clinics. It's quite common now. I think back when I started, they were very kind of individual osteo, physio, chiro. But I think a lot of people are diversifying and have been diversifying, probably particularly since COVID. And I've always wanted to have a multidisciplinary clinic. It took COVID for me to do that. We were very strictly osteo based pre-COVID. But it's always been something that I've wanted to do because there's so much to learn from other people, other therapies, other professions. And I think it's really just provided the team and the clinic with just that oomph of energy.
It must be quite good for patients, isn't it? Because unless you've been referred by a GP, I mean, supposing you've got something that's not serious enough to go to primary care, if I come to your clinic, I don't have to. You're going to triage me and tell me actually it's an osteo thing rather than a chiropractic remedy. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got people who will know exactly what they want and what they need. Some people, their choices are governed by how it's been paid. We work a lot with private medical insurance, who will dictate what they need to see. Third party medico legal, again, they will direct who the profession that they will need to see. Those who know exactly what they want to do. But there are people who will come in and say, I don't know what it is I need, so can I just explain it to you? And our team are highly trained to really triage and advise the best fit. And sometimes it actually doesn't come down to the profession, it comes down to the practitioner and the person. So it might be a language aspect, it might be a previous experience aspect, it might be a skills aspect or their training. And we'll triage those. If patients come into the clinic and they've booked in with one person, we really advise our team that if you're not the right person for that patient, explain it to the patient, communicate it, and refer them or advise them and guide them into who is best. And that happens, it happens, it doesn't happen frequently, but it does happen. But then the patients are really glad and pleased that we've taken that time to kind of say, look, I'm not the right person for you, but I think that this is who you need to go and see. Other alternatives are, the patient actually should be in primary care, scans, tests, diagnostics, and obviously we will refer back to GP or consultant if it's required.
Tell us a bit about then sort of the mechanics, if you like, of actually running the business. So you've got 30 employees. Is it 2 sites at the moment?
2 sites, yeah.
And just tell us a little bit about sort of the business model and how it runs. I mean, do you employ freelance specialists? What does that look like?
So everybody is employed, either predominantly full-time employed, but we do have part-time employed. The industry, particularly, especially osteopathy and chiropractic, is self-employed. But I think since COVID and since a lot of the employment changes and incoming employment changes, a lot more people are going employed. I think also practitioners are wanting that stability and that commitment from somewhere. The full-time or the employees, they're basically paid a salary plus a bonus commission, and that depends on their kind of occupancy of the patients they see in the clinic. The beauty team, again, beauty and massage team, they're full-time employed, again, base salaries, and then there's commission aspects. So it really differs from that kind of 50-50 fee split. If you get a patient, you'll be paid. If you don't get a patient, you kind of won't be paid. And I think that more people are starting to move into that kind of model of employment and commitment and away from the kind of the self-employed fee split model, which can work really well, but it can also have its problems.
I assume it makes you as somewhere to come and work more attractive, does it? Because there's more of a surety over salary.
Yes. Although it does have its challenges. I think where you are in a space where it is predominantly self-employed, you're always kind of trying to explain the benefits. There isn't too much difference in kind of the working relationship. There's real autonomy in the treatment room as to kind of how you treat that patient. But also then there is a little bit more control from the business side of things, but it provides structure, it provides pathways, it provides progression. Benefits is a huge one. We have a benefit package that includes private health insurance, pension, paid holiday, but then that's a given with employment. We're also able to invest in the practitioners with continual professional development. So we'll pay for their training. If they need a qualification in something, we'll provide that as well. So there's lots more you can do. And yes, from that point of view, it makes you more, it does make you more attractive. We also find that obviously with employment, you can do visa sponsorship as well, because you need to be employed to be able to do that. So that does open up kind of more culture and into the clinic, which has been really good.
How, with a 4-year qualification period, what is the supply of talent and qualified people? What does that look like? And has Brexit had an impact on that?
Um, so the supply, it goes through cycles. The supply at the moment is, we're recruiting at the moment, and the kind of the interviews coming into the clinic have been great. You can go through periods where you're looking for somebody to come join the team, and no one's coming through. And again, sometimes the cycles for physio differ from osteo, and the same with chiropractic. So there isn't really a magic formula that there is out there that you can kind of hook into. I think for us, it's been trying the different platforms that you can go and search and find people on, and then making the clinic an attractive and welcoming space to work from, where people want to come in. So the other thing we're getting a lot of organic traffic coming into the clinic of people who are really interested in working with us. Brexit itself, I think that had we stayed self-employed, we turned self-employed just before COVID happened. But I think that, and I can't remember when Brexit actually came into force, or it feels so long ago.
It does, doesn't it? I think it's about 6 or 7 years ago. I think now six maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people were able to get leave to remain, and because we're employed, as just mentioned, the visa sponsorship. It hasn't really affected us. There has been a drop in international students that's been experienced by a lot of the osteopathic colleges and the physio colleges, but there are international students coming through. There's some great students and great physios from India and Europe and the Philippines. So for us, it hasn't really affected because we've got that visa sponsorship ability. There are costs involved with that. So there are certain routes that you would prefer to take, i.e. take someone from a student visa to a tier 2. But you can take people from graduate visa to a tier 2, but there are a lot more costs involved. So as long as you've got the time and inclination to kind of go through that process, it's not too bad.
Great. You mentioned COVID. COVID must have been, of course, it's a very close proximity. COVID would have had a huge impact. Tell us a little bit about COVID's impact on your business and how you've come back from that, because I think you've come back very strongly from that time period.
Yeah, you are working in close proximity, and I think when it was all starting to kind of come into effect, as an employer and as a boss, you didn't really know what was going to happen, and it was a bit of a scary time to go through. Really learned a lot from it. So we closed down because we're key workers. We closed down for 3 months. There was the opportunity to slowly open and gradually open, and I think that our thought process was to open from the get-go with those who were comfortable and felt supported to get back into the treatment room. We'd had a lot of people who were, when are you opening? When can you help me? And a lot at that time you moved to telehealth, so video calls, and I think loads of people didn't really like that. It's great for a lot of things, but for when you're a hands-on service, people really struggle with it. So we went. Our decision was to really go for it, and I was kind of use the analogy of kind of slingshotting around Earth, where you kind of just utilize that energy and just really go for it and push forward. So we opened up PPE, gloves, masks, gowns, aeration of the rooms, fallow. So you had to have a 15-minute gap after every appointment to air the room. And we've kind of really not looked back since. It was a struggle. It was a scary time to be in, but an experience to have gone through.
Some businesses say to me, I mean, nobody would like to go through COVID, but some businesses have said to me, COVID provided opportunities to restructure or look at better processes and just to come back from it a bit sharper. Was that the case for you? Was there any kind of long-term beneficial side impacts of COVID?
Yeah, I think a lot of those have happened post-COVID. I think mainly because of the way in which people's mindsets work and the relationship that people have had with their with work. I think then pre-COVID, I think a lot of people were just wanted to get into a treatment room and treat. I think since then, a lot more work-life balance, a lot more reducing down the physicality of the job, a lot of diversification has come into play. So we used to work on a 4 long days and 1 day at the weekend schedule. So we took the opportunity to develop the schedules that we had so that we got rid of the majority of the long days. If people want to work a long day, I have no problem with that. But ideally working a kind of 6-hour shift, 5-hour shift, because it is a physical job, then we were able to provide that. We were working 7 days a week, and we took the opportunity to move our schedule to a 6-day a week and have Sunday as a day off and a day for the clinic to have a breather. It also allowed us to really look into what we were doing with employment. I think when you decide to take your clinic from a self-employed structure to an employed structure, it's not as if you can go and grab a payroll system off the shelf. So there were lots of learnings from that as well. So that COVID allowed us to kind of really look into kind of what we were doing and how we needed to develop and what we wanted the clinic to be in the long run. But I think a lot of the changes and structural changes we've done probably post-COVID.
Tell me a little bit about your ambition and what's next. So you've come out really strong from COVID. You've got 30 employees, 2 sites. Sounds like it's going well. What's your ambition next, James, in the next couple of years?
So the ambition has always been to have multiple clinics and multiple clinics beyond 2. We did have 3 clinics. We lost a clinic in COVID because of the air ventilation, so it wasn't the right space for us to utilise. So the ambition has always been to add on additional sites to grow the company, and that still is the case. So we're looking at flexible workspace to bring on 2 to 5 room clinics, utilising local transport hubs. So that's what we're looking at the moment, and really building up the MSK side of the business, so the physio, osteo, along with the podiatry, the clinical massage, and the shockwave. But what I've done is I feel like I've done it all, and I've learned a lot through trying to look at different ways in which you run a clinic, working from home with a massage table, having 1 room in a workspace, working from a dentist, working from a beauty salon, being and visiting and working in lots of different clinics. I feel like I've kind of learned a lot, and still I'm learning a lot. The last one, we brought and opened up a new 5-room clinic in the Olympic Village. That was from Shell & Core. Probably say I wouldn't do a Shell & Core again, but and a full fit out, but because they are big challenges. But I mean, never say never. But I think there are certain ways to do it and certain ways to build, and I probably would look at doing that flexible workspace, which we are looking at the moment.
If you were going to forward wind 5 years, say, I know this is or it shouldn't be really, because one of the things we coach on a lot is what is your 5-year goal, and then we break it down into 1 year and even 90-day plans. I mean, in a 5-year horizon, if you thought about how many branches, how many people?
5-year horizon, I would be looking at and hoping that I'm able to be involved in something that is that goes beyond London and the home counties, and how many people that involves, I've got no idea. That is the scope,
Yeah.
and to utilize my skills and knowledge and understanding to help guide and grow that. That type of company is going to require lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds, and not just the health and well-being sector, because as I've learned, as you grow, the business does become a certain beast, and you start needing to take advice from lots of different people. And my advice and knowledge isn't the kind of everything within that to be able to grow to that size. So, but that would be the absolute ambition.
What do you think are going to be the major challenges? It sounds like location, getting the right premises, somewhere accessible for people to get to is one, but what would be another couple of big challenges, do you think, on that journey?
I think, oh, go on.
I guess staff would be one, would it?
Yeah. People management has been difficult at times. And one of the biggest learns, and one of the most fascinating parts of the learning I've had in my 20-year career. I went into osteopathy to be an osteopath. I had no business training. I had no people management training. And for me, I think the biggest one has been making sure that I'm taking advice from as many people as possible. And at times, if needed, you need to pay for that advice. And that's probably the best advice I can give, that if you need to pay for advice, then pay for advice. But people management, and as the team grows, I got to a point where I probably getting to managing 6 or 7 people was probably enough. You then need to bring on other people into that fold to then start managing people. So you need that structure in place. And with that in mind, you have to have the right people in place, the right ethos, the right mindset, the right will, the right drive. So it's trust as well. People management. I think also as you get to a certain size, you then start needing, start needing to take into account investment, and because you do hit a bit of a plateau, and that can be quite challenging.
Mm. Are you still practicing, or are you, off the tools, off the actual doing now? Are you running the business rather than working in the business, or are you still practicing?
No, so I stopped practicing back in 2021. I was slowly reducing down my list because the business needed me non-clinically. Although, as any practitioner would probably be, it was a struggle mentally to come away from treating patients, because that's all I really, to some degree, all I really knew. And then I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, that then really meant that I really needed to step away from it. And at the time, it was quite a big shock. I was not very well, and to kind of go back into it, it's such a physical job. To go back into it, it is difficult. Do I miss it? I do miss it. I miss the free thinking of the job. I miss the hands-on aspect. I miss the patient communication. But I'm in a clinic that can see anywhere between 2,500, 3,000 appointments over a month's time, and I get to see and talk to many different people. So I do miss it, and then I don't miss it at the same time.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because actually, what you've built there is, and the way you've managed to scale it up. I mean, that's 2,500. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of lives you're making an impact on. Probably more, much more than if you were just still hands-on with maybe a couple other people.
Yeah, I think it's important as a there are practitioners out there who run their clinics, and they will just do it until they retire. And a lot of the people that I learned from were people who were close to retirement, and that's been a real good learning experience, because you're learning from those who've just been in it for a long time. But if you're as a principal or a clinic director, you do get to a point where if you're looking to take on other people, one, you need to provide the time to train them, to look after them, to mentor them. But two, you need to also give them the opportunity to take the patients. And what I've really enjoyed is seeing those practitioners grow. Some who are still with us, some who have moved on and created their own clinics, or working in specialisms, or working in clinics that work with that specialism. And I love to see that. Anybody who's going on to do something that they want to be, I can only fully support that.
Yeah, that's great. What would you say are one or two key learnings that you've made over the last couple of years, maybe since COVID?
As mentioned previously before, pay. If you always get advice, get a second opinion.
Yeah.
Pay for the advice if you need it. Human resources was a big one. Over the last 2 years, we've had actually a specific human resources company that we work closely with. Previously, before, we would use things like the Federation of Small Business, their provision there, which has been great. But I think as you start to get bigger, you need that kind of face-to-face, one-to-one contact time with human resources. The other big learns have been to trust your gut. There's lots of moving parts with the business. I think with people management as well. And I think since COVID, I think there is a difference in work. I think in some ways in a good way, and some ways in a slightly more challenging way. So trusting your gut. The biggest learns probably to really just go for it. If you have that vision and you have that idea and you have that want, even if it's just investigating as to kind of, can I do it? Should I do it? Just go for it and have that conversation, because one, it doesn't hurt. Two, you haven't lost anything, and you actually never know. And I think that's what everything that we've done has been like that. We've kind of tested the water, we've had a discussion, we've looked at what it is, and then we've brought it on. And I think that organic introduction of things into the clinic and into the business has been really, really helpful for us.
What would you say? I'm just going to wait for the helicopter to go over. Sounds like a Chinook going up the Thames there. What would you, two questions for you. They're slightly different. What would you, if somebody's watching this and they're a young person and they're interested in chiro or osteo or physio, and they're, should I do this or not? What advice would you give to a young person thinking about going into the profession? And I guess what I'm trying to get at there is, the satisfaction that you've had from this. And I'm going to ask a different question, which is more of an entrepreneurial one in a minute. But what advice would you give to a young person thinking about going into the profession?
Yeah, I think that my advice would be to definitely go and observe. I think observation and watching people work and putting yourself into the thick of it is a real key thing, because you really just pick up on the energy and the vibrancy of a clinic, and it is really it is a real vibrant. I'm not talking about like A&E, but there's a lot going on, lots of conversations, lots of different types of people. If you are somebody who loves biology, health, sports, medicine, but doesn't want to work specifically in a hospital, then osteo, physio, chiro, even sports therapy, podiatry, that is it's a real great environment for you to be in. If you're a people person, you like using your hands, you like thinking on the spot, then I think that osteopathy particularly is a really varied occupation, profession that is well regarded within the healthcare system, and it's getting even bigger and more recognised. So it's a real great time to be in the profession. It's hard work. It's physical. But there's lots of different, once you get that degree, there's lots of different avenues that you can go down, and ways in which you can work, whether you're working with days old babies to 99-year-olds to elite professionals to opera singers. And then there's also the animal osteopathy side. So, you could be working with cats, dogs, zoo animals, as I witnessed when I was doing my work experience. So, but I think going and observing and finding out and speaking to an osteopath, I think is probably the best thing.
Yeah, no, that's really great advice. I wish that actually, I mean, just generally speaking, when I was considering my career options, actually, I wish I'd got more opportunities to go and work in whatever profession it was and just get a feel for it. Because I think it's then becomes a lot more real, doesn't it? You can really picture it. You can decide, do I see myself working in this? So that's a great piece of advice. Entrepreneurial advice. On the other end of this, so supposing somebody has been an osteo for a while and they're thinking about branching out on their own, somewhere perhaps it's not going to compete with where you're at. But what advice would you give them from like an entrepreneurial perspective, setting up their own practice?
I think a lot of it goes back to what I was talking about when I said that once you've got that idea, go and investigate it. And if you've got the drive and the passion, then I can only say go for it. And then make sure you're taking advice as you go along, because there's lots of different aspects and ways in which you can do it. And there's lots of ways in which it can not be successful. The main thing is to go for it and to learn from and take advice from those who have done it. There will be some people who go and do it and they do it all on their own. To be honest, I suppose that's what I did. But yeah, take advice all the time, and make sure that you've got your costings down. Make sure make sure you're in the right place. Make sure that you can be seen. And there's lots of small things that you can do to begin with to kind of grow your list. Also, I think the main thing is that it is also a slow process. So don't expect things to just suddenly expand and explode from the get-go. It takes time to build up. And also when you build up, sometimes it reduces down before it builds up again and then reduces down. So it's really malleable and flexible in that way. So yeah.
Great. That's great advice. And yeah, I absolutely agree with all of that. Especially actually the biggest step is just setting the goal. It's that decision point, isn't it? I'm going to do this. I'm going to set my goal and going for it. Brilliant. Last question. Who is somebody that has had the biggest influence on you in terms of your professional career, whether that's on the osteo side or on the business side? Could be a mentor. Sometimes it's a first inspirational. Sometimes it's somebody, a lecturer. But who do you think has had a really great influence on your professional journey?
So I think I'm going to split this into two. I'm going to split this into a osteopathic professional business aspect, and then a kind of proper core business with what we're doing now. So first one is when we grew the team, I was getting to a bit of a point where I was a little bit stuck. I didn't have the formal training to be taking on people, and I needed to at least go and explore where I could get some help and some advice and be in an environment with other owners so I could learn from. So the first person was a mentor called James Butler through a company called Painless Practice. And I went to one of his groups, seminars, and then he came into the business and looked at reviewing and basically guided us and told us where we needed to improve, what we were not doing right, what we were doing right. And it was really eye-opening. From then, I then got invited to join a group of big clinic owners, some of the big clinic owners in the country. And I'm still part of that group, although it's run by his business partner, Celia Champion, and it's an environment where we meet once a quarter. There's anywhere between approximately 10 business owners from around the country, clinical, physio, osteo, predominantly. And you just talk shop, and you get advice, and you get reassurance, and you get ideas, and you get to have a look at what you could be doing, what you're doing right. And, I find that really holistically beneficial for what I need to be doing. And so going back to advice, if you are going to grow a clinic and you want to be a clinic owner, get yourself into, or look at getting yourself into a group like that. It doesn't have to be those ones. There are lots and plenty out there, and there's some that are clinical related and some that are more business related. But I think that from that first growth spurt, I think that's really, he had a huge hand in that. The last person is our financial advisor, a guy called Terry Field, who he's been instrumental in lots of things that we do, both personally and clinically. And I don't know where we would be without him. You've got to find somebody who you could trust, but also somebody who has been championing us from the get-go. He was also the person that advised that me and my partner, or now husband, get married. He's been hugely instrumental as both a kind of a guide and a mentor in what we do, and I'm forever grateful for both of them.
Right, two great examples there, James. Thank you. Brilliant. We are out of time. Thank you so much. That was a really fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. So it's been great.
And best of luck with your future growth plans.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, James.
Cheers. Thanks.